Hello, thank you for joining us today for our tour of a Kansas dairy farm. Our tour is brought to you by Midwest Dairy, the Kansas Department of Education, Child Nutrition and Wellness Services, the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Kansas Ag in the Classroom, and Discover Dairy. My name is Robin, and I work with Midwest Dairy, working on behalf of 6,500 dairy farms across the Midwest. Here in Kansas, there are just over 300 dairy farms. And I am happy to be joined today by dairy farmer Melissa Reed, who is ready to take us on a tour of her family farm, Hildebrand Farms Dairy in Junction City, Kansas. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
It's a beautiful day, so we're
Good.
doing great. I have some fun visitors that are excited to be seen today. So they're making their video debut.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so excited for this too. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of your farm first?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm a fourth generation farmer. The farm is owned by my dad and my uncle. And it originally started with my great grandfather who immigrated from Switzerland. So, and kind of cool little story. He got three cows, sold milk door to door in Junction City. And so it's kind of neat that, here many, many years later, we're still selling milk door to door in Junction City as well, just through grocery stores, also in a glass bottle like he did. So it's kind of a little bit of a throwback. Our dairy is unique because we bottle our own milk here on the farm. So through the tour today, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump right in. We're going to see some babies. We're also going to see the mamas. They're the real stars of the show. And then we'll also cruise on over to our processing plant. And we also have a neat video of us milking the cows. So you can get kind of the full picture. So, but we're going to start here in the calf barn. And I like starting in the calf barn because that's really the beginning of life, right? It's the beginning of everything. And on a dairy farm, you can't really have milk, which is what our center of our world revolves around, unless you first have a baby. And so our babies, we keep and do everything we can to take care of them and love on them. They bring us so much joy. This is our happy place. So if anyone ever has a bad day, I challenge them to come and continue to pout and grump in this barn because the calves just bring a lot of joy and a lot of love to us. So when they're first born, though, they actually go into individual pens. I have a couple babies that were just born a few days ago that I want to show you. These two beautiful heifers, they almost look like twins, but they're not. I swear, based on their markings, you would think that they were sisters, but they are not sisters. They were born just last week. And when a calf is born, they're anywhere from 80 to 90, almost up to 100 pounds. And so they can be very large, but we like to keep them in these individual pens right out of the gate just for their safety, and also to protect them from other germs, just like bringing a newborn, brother or sister home and having to take care and wash our hands and do everything we can. They have a growing immune system, and so we want to keep them safe and healthy. Now, after they're about 10 days old, that's when they get the luxury of getting into a group pen and chilling with their friends. And so you can see another group pen we have here. We use straw for bedding. They get grain and prairie hay to eat. And this is on top of the milk they get. So every day they're going to get a gallon of milk in the morning and another gallon at night. Now, if you notice, most of the cows have yellow tags. That yellow tag is their identity. So that's kind of who they are. And I'll admit, we do have some that have names. But for the most part, the number is what keeps things kind of set and easy in our computer system. So this white calf that's right in front of you here, her number is 980. We can see based on her tag that she was born in February 29th, and that her mom's number is 844. We were actually just messing with 844 earlier this morning. So what's so cool is how often a baby will look like her mother, in spots and in color. So
That's
her mother is very much an all white cow with just a few spots. So If you see her, you can see that she's pretty relaxed. She's just laying down, enjoying the spring air. We want our calves to be kind of in a what you call a state of rest, where they're just kind of hanging out. They're not exceptionally playful after they eat. It's more that their bellies are full and they're just almost kind of in nap mode, is how I would best describe it. So, but you have to remember, cows are not a predator like a lion or a tiger. They are more prey. So when they sleep, often they sleep with their eyes open, laid down, and almost kind of ready for anything at any given time. So while they look like they're up and awake, this is really kind of what they look like while they're sleeping and at rest.
It's kind of like their morning nap time.
It is. It is.
Well,
All right.
how many
Yeah,
baby
go ahead.
calves do you said they weigh between 80 and 100 pounds, and I'm assuming then they quickly gain more weight and grow quite a bit bigger as well. How many calves do
Yes.
you have on the farm, and do you like age wise, do they they stay together kind of like we think of a classroom of students who are all about the same age? Is that kind of how that works with their pens as well?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So this in our barn here, male or female, it doesn't matter. Now the females get the yellow tags, but the males actually get like these white tags over here that look kind of well. There you go, buddy. So this is a boy, and he's going to have a very long life here too, but very different because he isn't going to be able to have a baby and give milk. So he is going to go towards beef later on. So when he's about 2 years old, his day will come for beef. But yes, the calves stay in the same group pen, and they just pretty much hang out here based on their birthday and kind of based on age and how well they're growing. But you can definitely see a big difference from this fella and this heifer here than the other pin. And so you can definitely see they're a little larger. Man, you are like ready to go, aren't you? Gosh, you're so cute. And so yeah, we keep them in here anywhere from at minimum 2 months all the way up to 4 months, depending on space availability and milk availability. So right now we have a lot of calves that are out into our group pens, and we have quite a bit of room in here right now. So I have plans to kind of keep these pens in here for a little extra time, just because we have the milk as well as the space to be able to keep them under shelter. Now, what we love about this building is that we can actually roll up the sides, and then the door that's behind me, we can roll that up. So in the summertime, we can provide some great airflow through here. But during the winter, which is really what we have it prepared for, we could pull the sides down and keep it nice, warm, and cozy. So we always want to make sure and adapt to the seasons for them. But while it is kind of getting deep into spring, we're still getting a lot of really cold mornings. And so because we have those chilly mornings, we're still making sure that we're kind of still in winter gear. Although after today, we might very well get ready to open everything up.
Melissa, before we head out of the barn, could you show
Yeah,
us a little bit more and maybe let us see what their food looks like, the feed looks like for the babies? I know we talked about
yeah.
their bedding and you talked about that they get milk as well, but if you could maybe show us up close and personal to what that looks like for those
Oh,
babies.
most definitely. Most definitely. So the milk is a huge component. And you got to remember, they're getting 2 gallons of milk every single day. But we also want to make sure that we get them started on a good forage. So this is a prairie hay. Prairie hay is a drier hay. There's different types of hay, but this is a more drier hay that's really good for their rumination. And then we also have a grain mixture that we like to offer them as well. And so it's just putting that in front of them. This has some mineral and vitamins in it too, that's just going to help give them a boost in their immune system and make sure they're happy and healthy. And then what's really kind of neat about our operation is that when it comes to the milk, we're able to get them milk that comes straight straight from the grocery store. So we know our customers want the freshest milk possible. So we'll pull that milk from the grocery store a little early, and then it has a second life being fed to our babies here. So it's kind of a nice way to reuse and recycle that product, but also give them a pasteurized product too that's very safe and healthy for them.
Thank
So
you for
great
sharing that.
question.
Thank you. And I
Yeah.
think we can see they're curious and they're very well taken care of for sure.
Oh, well,
And so
thank
it's fun to
you.
see that too. And I believe we're
Yeah,
going to move on to the freestyle barn, so we'll get to see some of the bigger cows, and you'll tell us
that's
a little more
right.
about that. But one last question
Yes.
as we're walking over to the freestyle barn, could you a common question we get, and you did mention this, is that why farmers remove the calves from the cows so soon after birth, and maybe just give us a little more detail. I understand it has to do with safety, but as a farmer, give us a little more insight on that too.
Oh, most definitely. I'm glad you asked because when it comes to dairy farming, we definitely do everything we can to take care of our cows, but that to me it starts with taking care of the baby. And we have an individual pen that we keep the mom and the baby in, but there's often times that we might have 2 or 3 moms that are pregnant and gonna give birth. And I'll be honest with you, if you have a baby in with several other cows, the risk of that baby getting injured can be pretty substantial. Somebody's talking. Well, good morning. And because of that risk, we don't want a calf to get stepped on, which unfortunately has happened. And so we definitely want to make sure we separate them because I can definitely keep them, healthier and safer in the calf barn, especially with that growing immune system, and making sure that they're good to go and get a good start in life is our hope with it. So.
Thank you
But
for sharing
yes.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So we have taken a very short walk from our calf barn to our freestall barn, and you can see the girls chowing down. We have Crazy Eyes here right in front of me enjoying her feed. And so she is a sweetheart that's been in our herd a very long time. But you can kind of get a little glimpse at what she's eating here. So this in as a dairy farmer, I call it a TMR, which is total mixed ration, but I think it's best described as a good chopped salad. So in this awesome chopped salad, we have some hay, little alfalfa, but we also have silage, which is where we take the entire corn stalk, chop it up, every piece, the whole way down. So then that gives them a little kernels of corn, but then they get some really great forage food that's awesome for their dietary and their nutrition. And that's food that otherwise, as humans, we wouldn't really be able to eat. So that's what makes cows so unique, is that they have a very different design in their stomach that allows them to eat these forages, like grass and things like that, that, you know, Ian and I are not going to have for supper. So, hey, girls. So if you notice our freestall barn, the cows are free to walk around and kind of wander as they like. We do allow them out to pasture between milkings. And while they love going out to pasture and enjoying the sun, they also really enjoy their freestall barn because it gives them a lot of comfort. So to kind of show you, we'll pop in here real quick. And hey, sisters. So we have water. We always want to make sure water is easily accessible for the cows. So, an interesting cow fact, a cow will drink up to a bathtub full of water every single day. So if you put that in perspective, that is about 150 to 200 gallons of water that one cow is drinking every single day. And so we always kind of joke like, what goes in must come out. And so as cows are drinking all this food and all this water, we know that they are going to have quite a bit of manure that comes with that. Now with the manure, we find that that makes incredible fertilizer for our fields. And so we use that. We have 2,000 acres that we actually harvest all of our feed off of. So we raise our own feed, but we take that manure and we spread that on our fields, and it's incredible nutrients for our crops. And so it really is kind of the full circle, the full gamut, when we're able to take that manure, the gross, ooey, gross stuff, and then use it to feed the soil. So you can see I've got a couple cows laying down. So when we talk about the freestall barn, the cows are free to move about as they wish, but they also love to just max and relax. So you have 448 here who's just chilling. And as a dairy farmer, when I see a cow laying down, especially if she's chewing her cud, that is perfect signs that they are happy and content and making milk. And as a dairy farmer, I want nothing more than happy cows that want to make milk. And the best way they can make milk is truly to be in a state of rest. So again, resting, laying down, while they don't look like they're sleeping, this is very much them kind of just taking their morning nap, you could say. So with our freestall barn, we also do a few things to really help the girls with comfort. The first, you'll see that we use sand for bedding. So what we like about sand is that it's very clean. It's an organic matter, so it's easy excuse me, bacteria doesn't grow as easily in it. So it's going to limit any potential infections or anything like that. And the sand is just like very comfortable for them as well. So we focus on sand for bedding. We then also use fans and sprinklers in the summertime. So we will actually be firing up the fans pretty soon. I might even consider today, they were talking about temperatures kind of getting upwards today. So we might fire up our fans, which are up here. And our goal with the fans is just to provide good airflow and good air movement. Now, the cow's ideal temperature outside is about 40 degrees. So while you and I love like a 70-degree day, that's still a little on the warm side for them. So we want to do everything we can to keep them cool. And then when you think about how hot it can get in Kansas during the summertime, that's even harsher. So we will turn sprinklers on, especially June, July, August, and even beginning of September. And so we have PVC pipes lined up here. And these actually sense when the cow is underneath eating, and it'll turn them on, give them a nice little soak. And then we use that evaporative cool theory to kind of help cool them off. So it's kind of that thought that, when you go to the swimming pool and you get out and you're so cold, even though it's a 100-degree day, that evaporation is what creates that cooling. And that's what we're trying to recreate with our girls. So we want to keep their body temperatures cool. We want to keep them comfortable, give them plenty of time in the sun, as well as really good feed. And I think that that's critical to keeping them healthy and well. So
Melissa,
yeah,
I was just going to ask because I think it's very interesting hearing about the manure and how you reuse that. You're using sand bedding, which kind of makes me think of like a day at the beach for the girls
right.
there. But maybe you can speak to a little bit, because do you recycle that sand as well? And then just thinking about, as a farmer, all the things that you're doing that are good for the environment as well.
Absolutely. So the environment is huge, especially when we think in terms of our land, whether it's the land we have here that our cows graze on, or the land that we actually farm our crops off of. We do so many little things that we feel add up to big changes. So with the sand, a lot of that, if you even look here, kind of gets knocked off into the manure. And so it very much gets kind of incorporated. You can kind of see where it's kind of fallen. All of that sand kind of gets pushed off eventually, and then we're always putting fresh sand on top. And that's going into our soil base to help kind of feed the soil, and kind of provide aeration. So we really don't mind that sand being in the manure and with the soil. But then we do little things like the sensors with the sprinklers I talked talked about. That's so much better than if the sprinklers were just on all the time. We want to monitor and save and conserve that water as much as we can. We also do several other things to kind of provide water functions, whether it's good spray nozzles in the barns that we use, just overall, concentration on either water or soil health, as well as our girls.
Yes.
I will tell you, on our farm, we will do anything it takes to keep these girls happy and healthy. And that could include potentially using an antibiotic. Now, just like on every other dairy farm, including on our farm, that milk is always going to be discarded. And say I give this cow right here, say I notice that she's panting and potentially showing signs of like pneumonia or like a lung infection, I am going to treat her. So I'm going to give her an antibiotic, but by giving her an antibiotic, she's then going to go into a completely separate pen. She's not going to be with this herd. She's going to be completely isolated with other cows. We never leave one cow in a pen. They don't like that. But then she knows I'm talking about her. Can't you tell? But from there, their milk's going to get dumped. And this is protocol on any dairy I know of, where that milk is discarded completely until it is clear of antibiotics. And then at that point is when she would come back home, hang out with the gals, and be back to normal. So, again, I'm going to do everything I can to keep good health and
Mhm.
well-being on our farm. But I want to make sure that we're also doing it with, quality product in mind as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh, I really
Yeah,
appreciate it. And I know you work closely with your vets, your veterinarian for both the babies as well as the rest of the cows on your farm. Couple last questions I have is when you look at the manure, how do you clean that out of the barn? I know you said you use it out on your crops, so I know it has to be then, cleaned out at some point or during the day.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you said that because it puts into perspective. So if you look at the ground, which not that I encourage you to do so, but the manure you see here is actually about 2 or 3 hours old. So we scrape the floors every single milking. So twice a day, every day, the ground gets completely cleaned with a rubber squeegee actually, and the bobcat pushes that rubber squeegee into a big lagoon pond that has all of the manure. So it's fairly deep right now. That's because the cows love to eat. So if you notice, like right by the feed bunks, there's not hardly any manure, but yet behind where they've been standing and eating, it's pretty plentiful. So they love to hit the bunks right after milking, and therefore we have quite a bit here. But again, we consider that soil gold here on our farm. So we use every aspect of it. And yes, twice a day, every day. So we start milking at 5 a.m. and then again at 3 p.m. And I believe you guys have a video to show of our milking. And we can kind of, you know, take a sneak peek in the barn and you can kind of get a glimpse of a little bit about what we do there.
That's right. That's our next stop is the milking parlor. I do want to mention something though. I see you have Holsteins on your farm, and we know that there are about 7 different breeds of dairy cows. Could you just quickly, as we're walking to the milking parlor, maybe share a little bit more about that with us?
Absolutely. So Holsteins are our cow of choice here. We have had other breeds on our farm. So there's Guernseys, there's brown Swiss and Jerseys. We have had a brown Swiss. Her name was Millie back in the day. Beautiful cow. She barely fit in the barn though. And then we've also had several Jerseys that have been on our farm. And so the Jerseys, have been awesome and, been really good cows. But at the same time, we have just found that for our facilities and what we have here, Holsteins just work really well. And we just kind of have a heart for them. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know it's kind of interesting to learn more about different cows and different things on your farm, definitely. As we moved to the milking parlor, we know that there was an internet connection for us to be able to walk in and really get to see and hear what is going on there. So we had pre-recorded Melissa, so we will actually get to go in and learn some things about that. So as we do, I want to ask you to listen closely and see if you can tell us how much milk one of Melissa's cows generally provides in a day.
Okay, so we are about to enter our milk barn. We are milking right now, and so we're going to give you a chance to actually see the milking process and how it works. So coming in, there's a couple rooms to our milk barn. So where you're first coming in here, this is our tank room. So this is the big tank. This is actually a 6,000 gallon tank. It's the same volume that fits on a tanker truck. So when you see a semi rolling down the highway with a load of milk, it's the same size as this tank here. It does go far beyond that wall a little bit, but this is where all the milk is going to end up that we're milking right now. And so as we come in this room, we call this our milk house. This room needs to be very clean, and it's very much a different room than our milk barn, which we consider more of a barn. So in this room, we have all of the systems and the piping for cleaning the system that we use to milk the cows. And it also has our stuff that we use to feed the baby calves. And so as we enter the milking room, I want to let you know that this facility was built in 1974. So this part of our farm is by far the oldest, and it was really built for my dad and my uncle to have something to come back to. And so, like I said, we're fourth generation, but this barn has definitely seen a lot of history in our family. Christmas Day, weddings, graduation, a lot of times they kind of start in this room before we go on to the outside world. And it's also a rite of passage for every member of the family to learn how to milk a cow. So I will tell you, when we first have our girls come in, we have 6 on each side. And then as they're milking, all 6 have to get done before they're allowed out. So as we're looking right now, all of the cows, these are just getting finished up, and this side right here is just getting prepped. So we're going to put a spray on them, and this spray is kind of comparable to like an antibacterial you use on your hands, right? So it's going to kill all those germies, and then we're going to make sure we pull a little bit of milk from the cow. So you see that beautiful white milk? We want to make sure that we get a good amount onto the ground that's close to the outside of her, because it's not the best milk. We want only the best milk. And so we're doing what we call strip the cow, or strip the udder, and that's just making sure that all of that milk is good to go. Once we've pulled that out, we're going to take a rag, and each cow gets her own rag, because we want to make sure that we don't pass germs from one girl to the next. We're then going to make sure and dry her off and get all of that antibacterial germy stuff off of her. Once she's good to go there, we can now put the machine on. Everyone always asks about this hook, by the way. This hook is to hold these hoses out of the way. It's one of my most popular questions on a tour. So the machine is going to essentially be a vacuum that helps pull the milk out. And when I put that machine on, it'll start working almost instantly. So you can see the milk start flowing for her. It's going to go down into this line here, into the stainless steel line, and straight to the bulk tank, where it's going to get cooled and instantly chilled to about 40 degrees. We actually have our tank set at 36 degrees, so we like to keep it very, very cold, which helps keep it fresher longer. Now she is going to take about 8 minutes to milk out. So anywhere from 7 to 8 minutes, and the machine is actually automatically going to pull off for us, so we don't have to play any guessing work as to when she's done milking or not. It's automatically going to tug this and pull right off. Now once she's done, we're going to put what we call a post dip on her, and it's just to seal up. So these cows right here, this side is getting their post dip, and it's just to make sure that their teats are good and safe before they go back to their sand bedding and their freestall barn and going back to the pasture, because we want to make sure that their udders are well taken care of. So an average cow is going to give us about 8 gallons of milk a day. And so that's a lot of work, that's a lot of fluid, and we want to do everything we can to take really good care of them. Bye, girls. Come on, girls. All right, and so now that that run is out, we're going to make sure our machines are good and cleaned off. We want to make sure that everything from cow to cow is safe and good, and we're going to bring 6 more girls in. Those cows that just left are able to go right back to their beds, back to their food, back to their water. So when we start milking, we start at 5 a.m. and then again at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we definitely want to get them milked as quickly as possible because we're taking them away from bed and water. And so, but yet they have that need and that want to be milked. And so it's really important for us that we make the process seamless and that, you know, we take care of them because they definitely take care of us. Good job, girls.
Well, I hope you all found that as interesting as I did. Now, how many of you can remember how much milk does one of Melissa's cows generally provide in a day? If you said 8 gallons, that's right. And all that milk gets made into delicious dairy foods that you love, like chocolate milk, yogurt, ice cream, and cheese on top of your favorite pizza. Now we're going to turn it back over to Melissa outside their on-farm processing plant.
So we made a little walk over to the processing plant, and in the process I did a little change up. So you'll notice I have my hairnet as well as different boots because we want to make sure that as I'm out with the cows, I'm not bringing any of those germs into the processing plant. Now normally I'd be wearing gloves, so I'm going to keep my hands to myself when I'm in here. But you had mentioned chocolate milk, and we are just getting ready to bottle chocolate milk just here in a quick short moment. So that's the joy of live, right? Is that you get to the anticipation of waiting for the chocolate milk. So, but as you see here, we use glass bottles for our packaging, and the glass all comes from, it's labeled with our own product and our own name on it. And the glass is very unique to us. And we chose to bottle in glass mainly because it preserves the flavor, the freshness, but also just really sets us apart in the stores. And so it definitely gives us a different look and a different feel. And, you know, we think it's pretty cool that's recyclable as well. And so this bottle will be used many times over. I still have several bottles from our first year of production that's in our system still today. And so the glass is huge and very important part of what we do. Now, once the bottles are washed, you can see them palletized here. These will all be bottled today. So today we're going to be doing a small order. It's only going to be about 600 gallons or about 1,200 bottles. So we average closer to about 1,000 bottles, but that is a little bit down right now. With the COVID-19 and the pandemic, we are seeing a decrease in sales from restaurants and coffee shops. And so production is down without those restaurants and coffee shops needing to have the volume of milk to support them. But when we first bring milk over, there are several steps that it needs to take before it can ever reach the filler and the bottler. So first, it's going to come to our pasteurizer, which is right over here. So our pasteurizer is this maze of pipes right here. Now the pasteurizer is going to heat the milk up to 160 degrees, cool it back down to 45 degrees, and it does that all within a span of about 15 seconds. So it's very high temperature, short time, so it's very efficient, but it's going to kill any germs that could potentially be in the milk, and it's going to give us confidence that our milk is safe and a quality product for all. I will say that this is a piece of equipment that we get readily tested by our inspectors to make sure that it's safe and that the equipment's working properly. And what's so neat about our pasteurizer is there's so many safety nets involved that's not possible for us to, bottle an unpasteurized product. So we can guarantee that our milk and every drop of our milk is pasteurized. Now, while it's pasteurized, it's also homogenized. Now, homogenizing the milk is simply putting pressure on the milk so that the fat particles will no longer break up and rise to the top. So growing up, I always drank raw milk. I had to shake my jars really good to get that cream and that fat incorporated throughout the milk. With homogenization, you don't have to do that. Now, there's no issues with safety. It's purely just a consumer preference. But that is a big part of what we do with so many other processors as well, is we pasteurize and homogenize. Now, once we have gone through the pasteurization, homogenization, now we're finally ready to put it into 1 of 4 tanks. So today we actually have already bottled 2 products at this point. So we had cream in tank 1, which is all finished up. We had whole milk in this tank right here, which is all finished up. And we're just getting ready to send chocolate. So chocolate is the last product, and they're getting ready to send it over to the filler now. So you can see as we kind of walk over, the milk just kind of hangs out. It does like a little bit of maxing and relaxing until we are ready to bottle. And you can see here that Delilah is getting the last little bit of white milk out of the filler. We're wanting to make sure that it's only chocolate that's going to come through the filler lines. And then they'll be good to let the bottles go and start filling up. All right. So as the bottles, sorry, go ahead, Robin.
I was just wanting to touch base, just kind of mention something that all milk is tested on the farm and then also at the processing plant. Even, if you don't have an on-farm processing plant, that milk is tested at the other processing plants. And maybe talk a little bit about that it's very well, it's safe and it's a wholesome product.
Oh, through and through. So yes, all of our milk before it comes over, whether it's to our plant or any plant, a sample is taken on the truck, and then that is tested for antibiotics. And so when it comes to antibiotic safety, as a dairy farmer, we take it very seriously. We know that we could get someone very, very sick, and that antibiotic resistancy is a real thing, and so we have to do our part. So all milk, yes, is very rigorously tested to ensure that quality. Now, as you notice, you can see the chocolate going on the filler and filling. Today we're going to be doing 275 gallons. Now, all of our bottles are half gallons, and so we will actually be doing closer to 550 actual bottles. That will take us roughly about an hour. And that's because we're a much smaller processing facility than the big guys. There's some processors that can run, tens of thousands of, jugs of milk, which it's just so cool to watch, especially from our small scale side of things. But yeah, once it goes through the filler, it's going to come out, and then it's going to get dated. And so it's actually going to come through and get automatically dated here. Anna there is checking to make sure that the sell-by date is printing accurately, and that it's all lined up and good to go. Once it's dated, it's going to go into a crate. It'll be stacked into a crate of 5. Once they have 5 crates, then those will be wheeled to the cooler. And it's in the cooler that it gets to sit and wait for its next moment in life, which is the grocery store. So we will actually head this way, and I'll show you a little sneak peek. This is a behind the scenes. So when you come to tour the farm, we don't usually show the cooler, but I love to kind of, give you a little peek at the behind the scenes of what we got here. So here is where we keep all of our milk. Now, we pride ourselves on freshness. So our goal is to take it from the cow. So the milk I milk this morning is being bottled now, and that will be stored for 6 o'clock. So oftentimes we can get milk to the grocery store within 24 hours. While that's awesome, your average dairy farmer isn't too far off from that. They will really get milk to the truck. We'll pick it up within 48 hours, to the processor right away, and maybe to the store within another 24 hours. So across the board, when it comes to dairy, we pride ourselves in having a really tight transport time so that you can get the absolute freshest milk possible. So you can see all of our glorious products here. These are going to go out on my trucks and be delivered either today or tomorrow. So we really do try and ship it out and turn it around pretty quickly.
Thank you, Melissa, for giving us a sneak peek inside the cooler.
Absolutely. And so from here, we're actually going to go to the front of our farm store to give you kind of like a front of the cooler look as to what the back side. So that's the back end of our cooler. But when we built our processing plant, we wanted to have the opportunity for customers to come and be able to purchase our milk if they so chose. And so we have a farm store that's just a stone's throw away from our processing plant. So on our farm store, we have our whole milk, 2% skim, cream line, chocolate, strawberry root beer. Root beer milk is a fun one. Everyone loves to give root beer a sample or a try. But I will say that, if I was to pick a favorite, I'm a dairy farmer, so I'm a traditional whole milk kind of gal. I like it as is, not altered. The pure simplicity of, minimally processed and delicious. So I'm very much a whole milk advocate for myself.
So, Melissa, would you say that's your favorite dairy product? Whole milk?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, ice cream's hard to beat, though. I mean, if you have to talk like dairy products in general, whole milk is by far what I gravitate towards for dinner. Like every night, my family has a cup of, fresh milk with their supper, lunch, breakfast. And so we're definitely a whole milk family. But a little treat after, I can't resist ice cream. that's genetic. That's from my dad. My dad's favorite food is ice cream, and I'm pretty sure it might be a big reason that we do all of this craziness ourselves is because of his love of ice cream some days.
Well, I think I have to agree. Ice cream it's pretty delicious. Of course, I like all the dairy products too. We really want to say thank you for taking us on a tour of your farm today and the opportunity to see the processing plant that most of us don't get to see for sure. But as we get ready to say goodbye, I have another question that I'd like to ask you, and you may have answered it throughout the tour, but just to tell us, what is your favorite thing about dairy farming?
I would have to say the family and being able to work outside with the cows. Cows can be very therapeutic and they do so much for us, and so it makes us want to give back to them. But then, being able to work alongside my dad and my uncle, they're incredible guys, and so it's just such a joy to be able to work with them. And of course, we have our ups and downs. We have challenges that come with that, but for the most part, it really is fun and awesome being able to work with family. So thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Well, we want to say thank you again, and I know everyone viewing is also saying thank you too. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the time with Melissa and our visit to Hildebrand Dairy. On behalf of Midwest Dairy, I'd like to give another big thank you to our tour partners, the Kansas Department of Education, Child Nutrition and Wellness Services, the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Kansas Ag in the Classroom, and Discover Dairy. And I hope you all have an undeniably dairy good day.